Welcome back to the Docker Basics section of the Getting Started with Docker course. In this lesson, we're going to be cleaning up our Docker environment. So let's go to PowerShell, and let's look at what we have right now. We have Docker ps-a. We have those three containers, one of which should be running. It's not, but it should be running. And two of them shouldn't be running at all. And in fact, we can probably shut this down since we're really done with this demonstration. So let's shut everything down and clean up these containers. What we can do is, first of all, I'm going to stop the running container. So docker stop AEF. And now if I do my docker ps-a, all three are exited as their status. So now what I'm going to do is let's remove this hello world container first. So I'm going to say docker remove, so rm, and then I pass in the ID. So in this case, 078. I hit enter, and now it just says 078. If I do docker ps-a, I only get two containers. So I've removed that container. Now, that's cool, but that may take a while if I've created 30 or 40 containers, which does happen, especially when you start getting into composition, which is where different containers get started together in order to talk to each other. So how do I remove more than one at a time? Well, this is why PowerShell is such an awesome tool to use with Docker, because PowerShell has the idea of piping in commands or values. So for example, I can say docker ps-a-q. And the -q, what it will do is it will only give me the IDs of the containers. How does that help me? Well, I can say docker remove and then $, which is it's a PowerShell thing, docker ps-a-q in parens. So what that'll do is it will run this command first and pass in the results to this command. So it's going to pass in two different values to the docker rm command, which is capable of handling. If I hit enter, it returns back both of those values, which means it removed both of them. So if I do a clear screen, docker ps-a, I have no containers now. They're all gone. So that's the container side of things. Is that command with the $, docker ps, let's just pull it up here. This command right here, this one's pretty valuable for removing everything. It'll remove everything that's shut down. But just be careful of this, because right now it's deleting everything, which is great for a dev environment or a demo environment, but where you might want to have a couple still hanging around, you can't run this command. You got to filter it out somehow and be very careful how you do that, or just do it manually, docker rm and then the image number. So just be careful of that. Let's clear this out. And we're going to do a docker images. We have quite a few images here. And I could do a docker RMI for remove image. And let's just remove the hello docker 1.0.1, which is, I should do 1.0.0. So that's the A13. So A13. So it untagged it and then it deleted it. And if I do a clear screen and say docker images, we now see that we only have a version 1.0.1. We're missing 1.0.0. It's not something I do in a production environment probably, unless I had lots and lots of versions, but I'd still probably archive it somewhere. But again, for a demo or dev environment, it's great to clean these things off. But now I say, you know what? I want to nuke the whole thing. Get rid of everything. I'm going to start over. Well, just like the docker ps-a-q, there's a docker images-q. there's the 4 images. So the same thing can work. Docker RMI for remove image, the $, open parens, Docker images -q. And it deletes our images. And if I clear the screen and say Docker images, I have no images now. And that's great, is it's now cleaned up everything. We can start over fresh. And if we run our commands again, we can kind of build our environment back up really quickly using that Docker build and Docker run for our hello Docker. And we can kind of start over from scratch. It will download the libraries or the the images that it needs, like the HTTPD, the Alpine version. So we can get those back really quickly. Now, the downside here is if you were going to get on a plane and you ran this command and then you got on a plane and said, oh, I want to recreate my environment. And so you go to recreate it, you've got to download that, was it 42 megabytes for the Alpine version of HTTPD? Well, you can't. Now, so you have Wi-Fi that has enough bandwidth to download that. So having it locally is nice, so don't delete it before you get on a plane, and just be careful of when you delete. But that does allow you to kind of clear up some space you're not using anymore, especially when you're just learning Docker or this is your dev machine, you're trying different things out, because you end up bringing a lot of different images down, trying things out, and then maybe you don't need them anymore, but you forget that you don't need them. And so this way it cleans it out. Now, the images are currently in use. It will give you an error, but it will delete the rest of them. So that's also kind of a safety feature there. Okay, so that's really all there is to cleaning things up. You have the Docker RM command in order to remove the containers, and you have Docker RMI in order to remove images. And then I showed you how to do those shortcuts to pass in the list of tags using the -q for both Docker PS and Docker images. And that's really all there is to the Docker basics in general. So let's go ahead and recap what we've learned, kind of refresh our memory a little bit, and then look at what we have to do next.